It is my honor to welcome you and to host you. I am Jonathan Cannon, the head of school at Ramaz, and I, to be talking about both Ramaz and KJ in the same evening feels very much like home and home being in the same place. So it's exciting for me to do that. There's really a very clear very clear line that you can draw between being in Israel and being connected with Israel. And I think possibly one of the starkest examples of that was during COVID, when so many people who would be frequent visitors to Israel or even occasional visitors spent years away from Israel. And it was actually possible the love of Israel didn't diminish, but the connectivity and especially as we looked at our students, but all around, it was that much more difficult to feel connected. And actually, that was one of the driving forces that led to our decision post-COVID to take the entire high school to Israel. And while that in itself was an amazing experience, I think one of the things that we've noticed now in the high school during this terribly, terribly painful, indescribable time is that the students have held on to their ruach, their passion, their tefillah, and they've taken it to their rallies, and they've taken it to the classrooms, and they've taken it to chesed, so that this connection with Israel has been very much being there, and having been there not just with us but on multiple trips post-COVID has reinforced and given us and our students that ability to connect in a much deeper way with Israel. And as we do that, it's as you say, that one says the words connect with Israel, there's a kind of heart sinking at the same time as we're talking about the power that it's done. And so as this next phase is now underway, alongside the hostages who we just pray for their safe return, and the families who need refuah. Also now the Chaim of Tzva Agana Yisrael. I'm sure, like many of you, I've been talking with friends and family in Israel, and their kids who are in the army, who are in Gaza, are just sort of they can't communicate. Days and days and days go by, and they haven't been able to hear from their children, and they don't know how they are. And in this day of these days of social media and phones, when normally we don't go for more than 18 seconds without communicating without our children, that gap. And so we pray that their children are safe, and that they will be home safe and soon. So in terms of that connectivity, it's never been more important. I think that's our understanding, and that's what we're experiencing. We started off with connectivity taking us to Israel, and now we need to be in Israel in order to have connectivity. So there's this kind of circle, and I'm particularly proud of and wanted to highlight our class of 2023, who are in their 13th year of Ramaz. They graduated last year, so they managed to be alumni and students all at the same time. And it's been a challenging year, especially the ones who've been dedicated to having a gap year in Israel, and whether they've remained in Israel or whether they've been here. I mean, we've just been having these weeks of the students coming in and learning with us, and tefillot, and also and they've been involved in chesed. So those who have been here, those who have been in Israel, have maintained this very, very powerful connection with Israel. And as our students are beginning to make their way back to Israel, the ones who are here, we wish them we wish them the Siyat Tova, and we're so excited for them to be able to go back, and also so proud of who they are, those who have been here and continue to be here. And maybe it just reinforces something that we can never say enough, that being in Israel for a year, following high school, taking a year in Israel, in the same way that we talk about high school and K through 12 school, N through 12 school, solidifying Jewish identity and Israel awareness. a year in Israel really solidifies Israel identity. And so we wish all of our students the success, those who are there and those who are traveling there. And so with that, if you wanted to kind of look around the country and wider and pick two shlichim who you would want to go on your behalf to Israel to not just represent the community, but to themselves be just sources of love and power and knowledge and expertise. You couldn't do any better than pick Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, the senior rabbi of Congregation Kilat Jeshurun, and Rabbi Josh Lookstein, the associate head of school here at Ramaz, for rabbinic learning, Jewish life, and Jewish life and leadership. So, I don't want to take up any more of your time this evening, because we've really come here to hear from Rabbi Steinmetz and Rabbi Josh, and to just reiterate how special, amazing it was, and how quickly both of you just said, not only does somebody have to go to Israel, that somebody is us. And we thank you for that. And I'm selfish. I'm on here because I've been consistently inspired by their stories. And so I'm here to have another go. But I think that you'll find that experience to be the same. So with that, I would like to introduce Rabbi Josh, who is going to share his thoughts and some ideas, and then over to Rabbi Steinmetz.
Thank you, Jonathan. At Ramaz, I teach a senior elective entitled Inspiration, and a guest who presented to the class spoke about a significant career change she made as a result of participating in a clinical trial for a disease she developed in adulthood. Previously, she was in family law, and now she is the head of bioethics at a hospital. Her message was, in her words, inspiration doesn't always come in a pretty box tied with a pretty bow. My illness was my inspiration. The trip to Israel that Rabbi Steinmetz and I took was called a mission. When a mission is needed, missions are moving experiences because of the interactions the participants have with the afflicted area. Interactions that impact those that live there and those that visit. This mission was a series of inspirational moments whose source was incomprehensible tragedy, but whose power was in the stark contrast between the images of destruction and the signs of life. By definition, we didn't meet those whose lives were taken. We only met two kinds of people. The only two kinds of people there are in Israel right now: survivors and those who are supporting the survivors. And everyone was a hero of incomparable strength, whether they wore a uniform or not. Every time we thought we heard it all, another hero would emerge with a new, previously unimagined story of heroism. My first encounter with their strength actually occurred 2 weeks before the mission, in my first communication with my friends in Israel, minutes after the end of Simchat Torah, when I asked them in a group chat how I and the Ramaz KJ community could be helpful to them. One of the first responses was from Beverly Gribbet's class of '69, who wrote, "Can we be helpful to the Ramaz graduates here in the yeshivot and midrashot?" Her response jolted me. Who was the helper and who was the helped? My instinctive reaction to this crisis was to assume the role of the strong American Jewish community offering help to the weakened state of Israel. The message I heard back, intended or unintended, was that while all help is appreciated, Israel is strong. Every encounter on the mission confirmed that heroic strength. The Ramaz alumni who attended a reunion in Ra'anana, all but one of whom has at least one child in the Army, and Margie Zwiebel, class of '56, with 10 grandchildren in the Army, who responded to a question about how she is still able to smile at this time with, "Every war has been hard on us. I am with people I love, so I smile. Life has to go on. Eli Magid, class of 2000, 1 kilometer from the Lebanese border, guarding an evacuated kibbutz, a secular member of his unit wearing tzitzit, and 2 religious soldiers, a rabbi and a dayan, learning Torah with sirens in the distance, and the ground rumbling from rockets to and from Israel. Showing me the entrance to the bomb shelter at the Gan, the nursery, with a little slide, because that's the fastest way to get 2- and 3-year-olds into the shelter when there might only be 7 seconds from siren to impact. Elitzur Agus, class of 89, who volunteer work with the organization One Family, spends hours every day, way before what Israelis are calling Shvi'i La'asiri, 7/10, like America's 9/11, visiting those wounded in terror attacks or in battle, and was my guide for several of the most impactful hours on this mission, bringing fruit shakes and smiles and comfort and offers of continued support to every patient he encountered, even taking a page out of Chabad and putting tefillin on a Chiloni survivor of the rave music festival, who told us that the morning of the attack, he went with his religious cousin to the Arizal's mikvah in Tzfat and wondered if that had something to do with his survival. Glenn Cohen, class of 82, former helicopter pilot in the Israeli Air Force and clinical psychologist in the Mossad, whose reserve duty is resuming his role of being one of the first people to meet freed hostages, to ensure their mental and emotional well-being and ability to provide immediate critical information to the Army about their captivity, and then remaining at their side during the information gathering sessions. Michal Moked Rimon, in the middle, in the purple vest. Class of 88, my classmate, CEO of Access Israel, a nonprofit dedicated to making Israel more accessible to individuals with disabilities, whose purple vest mission is the address for evacuees from communities near Gaza with a family member with a disability, who I watched stand in the chaotic lobby of the Sea Tower Hotel in Tel Aviv, listening to the desperate cries of evacuees from Ashkelon, who only took 1 suitcase with them and need food and clothing and medicine and help transforming their hotel room that Access Israel made possible into an accessible space. And they need a hug. And she stood there confidently with a smile and said, "We are handling your worries." And their anxiety eased. The wounded soldier from the battle in Kibbutz Be'eri, who told us that at his regular pre-Shvi'i La'asiri post outside of Ma'arat HaMachpelah, he is often hugged by Israelis and Jewish tourists from around the world, and that he prefers the hugs from tourists because he is fighting for Am Yisrael, not just Medinat Yisrael. And this soldier's mother, who followed us out of the room to say, "We are all grateful that he survived, but had he not survived, he and we would have been shalem, whole, because of how much we all believe in this mission." And Amichai, the father of 6 from Kfar Shalom, who was holding the door to his safe room when terrorists tried to blow it up and lost part of his right arm and 3 fingers on his left hand, and who only 1 ER doctor thought had a chance to be saved. And Amichai's mother, who told us that 13 years ago, Amichai's brother was killed in a terrorist attack, and that she believed that the reason Amichai survived was because his brother found the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, and said to him, You are not taking my brother today. And finally, people in a different kind of uniform. This is a video taken in the courtyard of our hotel close to 9:30 p.m. last Tuesday night. The people are evacuees from Sderot, who 2 weeks earlier arrived broken and shaken from the experience of terrorists going door to door, killing people. But with some distance and perspective, you begin to realize that if everyone we met was a hero in their own way, then heroism must be achievable for everyone. And that while Rabbi Steinmetz and I found it me'ever layam, across the ocean, lo me'ever layam hi bilvad. It isn't only there. Ela beficha uvilvavcha la'asoto. It is within each of us. The Ramaz KJ community educates its children to become leaders and activists in their communities and beyond. It's basically in the water we drink and in the air we breathe. And so many graduates and community members have heard the call. Everyone on this Zoom has influence in some way and can make a difference and be heroic. As Mordechai so compellingly says to Queen Esther at a critical moment in Jewish history, Umi yodea im la'et kazot higat lamalchut. Maybe this is the moment for which God put you in this position. For us right now, let's drop the maybe. This is the moment we were educated for. Am Yisrael Chai.
Wow. Well, Josh, thank you. Thank you. That's all I can say right now, and we'll say more later. But thank you. It's my honor now to introduce someone you know probably better than me anyway, Rabbi Steinmetz, the senior rabbi at KJ, to share his reflections. And please feel free, there should be some time afterwards to ask questions to Rabbi Josh and Rabbi Steinmetz. So feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll pass them on. Thank you, Rabbi Steinmetz.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Rabbi Lookstein. It was such an honor to be part of this mission, and I also want to point out again, Kenny Rockland offered so much support in getting this pulled together. It was, I described it to someone today. It was, to quote Dickens, the best of times and the worst of times. It is, it's almost impossible to articulate in words the difficulties and the pain that we saw. And actually, I was a bit in pain myself when I returned, because I realized that maybe we don't fully appreciate in America how deep the wounds are. I mean, we intellectually appreciate it, but you almost need to go there to feel it. Of course, here in America, we've had a chance to meet with various family members of the hostages, but it's so painful when you sit with them for an extended period of time. So I want to talk first about the worst of times. I'll give you one example. I went to visit Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv on Thursday morning. And Ichilov is really one of the largest facilities in Israel. It may be the largest hospital facility. And they still get various people who come up from the south because it has such a large set of services. In other words, it's a tertiary care hospital, which enables them to do all sorts of things that other hospitals cannot. And they built the parking lot 11 years ago to enable it to be turned into an underground hospital, which would then be, so to speak, a hospital in a bomb shelter. And that was their foresight 11 years ago. This is the first time they're using the hospital. And that's because they are quite worried. They're worried about the possibility that Lebanon will and Hezbollah will get involved in this conflict, which would be very, very difficult. But let me tell you what happened in Ichilov that really sort of affected me profoundly. What happened in Ichilov is we had I met with Dr. Renana Eitan, who's actually the sister of Cantor Ozzy Schwartz of Park Avenue Synagogue, and Dr. Eitan is the head of psychiatry. And she showed me a picture, and the picture had to do with some therapy that they were doing with some of the small children in the kibbutzim. And the way you do therapy sometimes with small children is that you have them do play therapy. So the picture that she showed me was a girl was given a doll's house and asked to depict her home. And what she did with the dolls was lie them down on the floor like bodies. And she took the furniture and knocked it over and pushed it against the wall. And Dr. Eitan, who herself is overwhelmed by working day and night, almost without stop, looked at me and said, there is no psychology textbook in the world for a case like this. And you meet with the people. We met with the people in Kibbutz Nirim, and one of the mothers was talking about how difficult it was for her, and how her daughters had been hidden under a blanket for several hours during the attack. And now her daughters are frightened of silence because there was a ghastly quiet while they were sitting and waiting for the Israeli army to come and liberate them. So when I speak about it being the worst of times, it's a difficult time. Everybody spoke to us about the economic consequences of calling up virtually all of the able-bodied men in the country to serve in the army. There is a lot of concern. There is a lot of worry. And what is remarkable is that in this difficult time, we actually see the best of times. And that's what's so exceptionally beautiful about Israel. One could say, actually, many people have said, that what happened in this particular war was a failure of leadership, the political leadership, the military leadership. It was an overall failure of leadership. But what is remarkable about this is how the grassroots have responded. It's the grassroots that are making Israel strong again, whether it be the fact that 180% of the soldiers who have been called up are showing up, whether it be the fact that everywhere you go, and I'll use my friend's phrase, you see a balagan shel chesed, you see a tornado of kindness. What is amazing in Israel is, number one, the grassroots. But even more than that, what's amazing in Israel is the power of the Jewish soul. I want to share two moments in which I saw the Jewish soul on this trip. The first was when Rabbi Lookstein and myself met with Rabbi Doron Peretz, Rabbi Doron Peretz is the executive vice president of World Mizrahi. I've known him for several years. I met him several years ago on another mission. And Rav Doron Peretz, and here you have a picture of him. We met him actually at the studio of the 14 network, which is one of the newer networks in Israel. And actually, that's myself and Rabbi Lookstein. He's next to Rabbi Lookstein, and on the other side of him is Ido Tauber, who is one of the presenters on this network. So Rav Doron Peretz had quite the story. He had two sons who were involved in the battle on the first day. One son, who was involved in a heroic battle to save 20 soldiers who were holed up in a facility and managed to save them, was wounded in his leg. The other son, who was a tank commander, was taken, assumed to be taken by Hamas. He's not found, and the assumption is he is, and from all of the indications, he is one of the hostages held by Hamas. The son that was lightly wounded was supposed to get married the following week. The family had to make a decision. Do we go ahead with the wedding with the other son being a hostage of Hamas? And Rabbi Peretz listened to another rabbi who himself had lost a child. He went through consultations. His family went through consultations. And their decision was that they would go forward. And when I asked him, what was that? Where did you get the strength to do this? He said to me that we as Jews believe uvacharta v'chaim, that you need to choose life. And that's precisely what he did. And this was something that showed the Jewish soul. It's not just that Israel, the grassroots, which is of course something profoundly Jewish, that everybody is getting together. And it doesn't matter if the leaders have failed, the people are succeeding, the people are coming forward. But here you have true heroes of the spirit, people who say, I'm hurting, but I'm going to do what's best for the Jewish future. And I had a similar experience when I met with Rabbi Tamir Granot, who's the Rosh Yeshiva of Arot Shaul, which is a yeshiva in South Tel Aviv. It was actually a yeshiva that was started in Petach Tikva by Rav Yuval Shurlo, and now Rav Granot is really the one who is with another Rosh Yeshiva running this yeshiva. And what was incredibly powerful about this conversation is Rav Granot's son passed away on the first day of the war. And I asked him a question that I asked every other person I met. I said, how do you find chizuk? How do you find strength? And he gave multiple answers, but the one that really hit me was that he said, I am looking for meaning. Meaning is what gives me strength. And for me, my biggest worry is about the day after the war ends. Will we, as a people of Israel, be united? Will we go back to the divisions we had? Or will we find a way to express solidarity and to care for each other? And this, too, was someone who truly showed himself to be a hero of the spirit. So it was the worst of times, but it was also the best of times. We saw the trauma, we saw the pain, we saw the sense of loss. We saw how many young lives were stolen. But at the same time, look at what the people of Israel are doing. Look at the incredible solidarity. Look at the incredible kindness. Look at the incredible courage. And look at these heroes of the spirit who say, even if my heart is broken, I am going forward.
Thank you, Rabbi Steinmetz. I'm probably not the only one who needs just to pause for a moment to absorb what both of you have been saying, because it's on the one hand so difficult for anybody who hasn't been in Israel to picture what was there, and yet on the other hand, you both brought it forward with such vivid spirit that you could almost place yourself there, and that just takes a little bit takes your breath away and takes absorbing. Thank you for being thoughtful enough to find ways of sharing. I wanted to ask some questions, and then actually we have a video that we're also going to be sharing. But a lot of people are kind of going backwards and forwards. They feel they'd like to go to Israel. It's important to go to Israel. I've almost met nobody who doesn't think that as their starting point. And for some people, there's anxiety about, it doesn't sound like a particularly safe place to be right now. Should I really be going to Israel? And that anxiety is also sometimes becomes separate anxiety, a question of like, will I not just be in the way? I mean, and where they kind of this overlap is like, if God forbid there's rockets, the last thing Israel needs is a bunch of us like trying to go up and down stairs and get into shelters, or there's a war going on, and there's so much practical stuff from parenting, and am I additive, or am I just taking away? And also I'm anxious. Rabbi Steinmetz, then Rabbi Lookstein, is there any thoughts you could share on that?
Rabbi Steinmetz, you can start.
Okay, I have thoughts on both of the questions. I don't know if I should do one or both.
Yeah,
or,
they're interlinked. Go with both.
So let me start with the safety one and sort of push that through. I don't want to trivialize the safety question. I do want to say two things. First of all, obviously, if it's going to make you anxious, you should not go to Israel. No one should go to Israel if they're not going to be able to sleep at night. The second, and this is a question I've thought about for many, many years, because I brought missions to Israel during the Intifada. I've gone to Israel during multiple wars. The truth is that the reason why we perceive Israel to be so unsafe is in large part, not completely, but in large part, because of the perceptions that are pushed forward in the media, meaning the only part of Israel you're going to see is the Israel that is under attack. That doesn't mean you won't hear sirens. You do hear sirens in Tel Aviv. You do need to go into the, at times, the Cheder Mugan, Jerusalem, much less so. But, so there will be moments that will be dangerous. But for people who live in New York City, there are many moments of danger. And what I had done during the Intifada was I did a little bit of statistical research. And actually, the amount of danger that was presented then, and I could certainly recalculate now, the amount of danger that was presented then was trivial compared to driving a car on a highway. So if you're the sort that appreciates statistical analysis rather than it coming from just a deep-seated anxiety, so you should know that probably statistically it is not that significant an issue. Now let's talk about, are you underfoot if you visit Israel? And here I need to give an emphatic no. The strangest thing about this particular trip was that at every single stop, people thanked us. Didn't just thank us for bringing them duffel bags, although when we did that, they did thank us. They thanked us for visiting. I was astounded. Soldiers are thanking us for visiting. People who are running shelters and running in circles all days are thanking us for visiting. And I said to them, you're thanking me. I need to thank you for preserving the Jewish state for all the Jews around the world. But they thanked me anyway. I got notes from people thanking me for coming and visiting. And I believe that for Israelis, the thought of people coming to offer them solidarity is something incredibly powerful. And actually, the second answer has a lot to do with the first one. And if I may, I just want to add one short thing. People don't come when it's a dangerous time. And when you do come, they're shocked. And I remember in 2006 visiting during the Second Lebanon War. And I went into a shop, and the woman behind the counter asked me, if I was going back home because it was towards the beginning of the war. And I said to her, no, I was coming because there was a war. And she started to cry. And she said, my brother just got a tzav shmona. I got an order that told her that told him that he had to report. And she said, I can't believe that you're coming here to visit with us. So if you want to know whether or not you'll be underfoot, the answer is an emphatic no. People will be incredibly appreciative of the fact that you're there. If you're spending money in stores and going to restaurants, the owners will be incredibly appreciative as well.
I guess the only thing I'll add is of what Rabbi Steinmetz just said at the end, which was, I'm not used to going to the Mamila Mall at 6:45 p.m. on a Thursday and it being completely dark. So there's business that obviously Israel makes a lot of its money on tourism, and there is no tourism. We witnessed that. Walked on Ben Yehuda, walked in Machane Yehuda, and the people who are there are Israelis, and nobody's there, and that's going to hurt like it hurt last time. I do know that my friend Daniel Rothner from Arevut did send us a flyer. Flyer is about shuks that are going to be where they're like KJ and Ramaz did years ago. They're flying in merchants from Israel so that they can sell. So please be on the lookout for that. But that's a very sad component of this. I think you're on mute, Jonathan. I think you were.
I was frozen as much as on mute so I couldn't. Rabbi Josh kind of in a passing conversation said that in a very short space of time, it was amazing how there could have been experiences that will change you forever. And I wondered if I could nudge you on anything that you feel like is shareable. It's you've been to Israel probably more times than most people on this Zoom put together, and yet you can go at a time like this, and it can be probably one of the shortest trips you've ever taken, and with the most impact. And and then if you could talk a little bit about that, Rabbi Steinmetz. I don't know if you felt that, but if you have anything to add it afterwards, that would be great.
My father just spoke in that same inspiration class that I talked about. My father was a guest speaker a couple of weeks ago, and the topic was, where did your commitment to Israel come from? And as in his telling, he mentioned that he had a love of Israel developed in a certain way, and then his trip to the former Soviet Union was really what sort of activated it. In 1972, he learned how to help Jews in need. And so he took sort of that love of Israel and it turned into an active commitment to the state of Israel. And he quoted a story that before he left, his uncle Bernard, who was had a very significant impact on him, he said to him, I can say this, he'll forgive me. He said, Hack, make the most of this trip because it could change your life. And it did change his life. And when Jonathan and I discussed my going on this trip, I very much had that in mind. And I will say, if it felt different than every other trip I've been on, and I've lived there during 2 intifadas, and it felt different. It felt different because we were the only ones there who were not Israeli, and there were 3 rabbis from Boca who were on our flight or who were on the next flight, and a couple of people on our flight, but basically we were the only ones there, and that that feeling, I think it will never leave me. And I think the other feeling I think that will never leave me is, and I think I intimated this at the beginning, every single person you meet, there's also, nobody is on the sidelines. Just nobody is on the sidelines. You're either a victim or you're trying to do whatever you can to support victims. That's it. There's no in between. And so that I've never felt. People ask, does it feel different? That I've never felt. Again, I've lived there. Thank God I've been blessed to live there during some difficult times. But all of those difficult times, everyone went about their business, and not everyone, obviously, but so many people did. Here, it just, when we were there, every single person you met was involved.
Right. I would just add one other thing, is that when I spoke, to the students in the various yeshivot, I told them that you need to understand that this particular period of time, it's something that you're going to be telling your children and your grandchildren about. I urge them to make sure that even though they're studying in the yeshiva, that they need to connect to average Israelis. They need to get involved in chesed projects. They need to know what's happening. They shouldn't be in a bubble, because they have a front row seat to Jewish history. And I have to tell you that for myself and for Rabbi Lookstein, that's exactly the experience we had, whether it be meeting soldiers or meeting the wounded in hospitals or meeting the mifunim, the people who were evacuees, or whether it be meeting with these remarkable, heroic rabbis. Every moment was historic. We were there watching Jewish history with front row seats. And that's something that will always transform your life.
Thank you. If you're, well, I don't think there's anything else anyone could be on this call, but if you're feeling inspired to, seriously look for an opportunity to make a visit to Israel, please keep an eye on your email over the next few days, because there are, as they say, opportunities near you which could well be coming your way. So certainly, I think something that I heard from Rabbi Josh, Rabbi Steinmetz, like, as soon as they came back, it's like, we just got to get everybody there, or everybody that is able to go and feels comfortable there. We just got to get them there, and not in not one a week, every, people need, there's so much to be done and there's so much impact. So, I think, Rabbi Josh and Rabbi Steinmetz have kind of, it's almost like mission number 2 was come back and get mission number 3, which is get everybody else there, has been very much part of their life. So we're gonna share a video from one of the program and one of the visits that I think both Rabbi Steinmetz and Rabbi Lookstein took to the community that's been displaced from near Gaza and is in Eilat at the moment.
הם פרצו את הבית, הם נכנסו לתוך הדירה 3 מחבלים, ואז אלון אמר לזיו, הגדולה בת 8, הוא אמר לה, תחבקי את הבנות, תרדו מתחת לשמיכה, יהיה פה עכשיו רעש, אבל אני שומר עליכם. ואיך שהמחבל בא לפתוח את הידית של הממד, הוא נתן בעיטה כדי להעיף את המחבל, ואז הוא ירה בו והרג אותו. כל הזמן הזה הגופה של המחבל ממש ביציאה של הממד, ואז אלון התקשר לצבא, והוא אמר לבנות, עוד רגע יבואו, הגיעו אחרי 3 שעות אליהם, ואז הצבא הוציא אותם דרך החלון ממד, כדי שהם לא יעברו דרך הגופה של המחבל. אני רק כשהגענו לאילת, כתבתי להורים שלי, הבנות שלי מוגנות. הילדה שלי... אז איך הם היום? בערב הכי קשה לה, כי החדר שקט, וזה מזכיר לה את הממד. והיא אומרת שהיא שומעת אנשים הולכים במסדרון והיא לא יודעת מה קורה, זה כאילו היא חוזרת לחוסר ודאות, שהיא מרגישה שהיא בחדר, וסתם ילדים רצים במסדרון והיא לא יודעת, אולי קרה משהו, אולי, וכאילו היא כל הזמן חוזרת לחוסר ודאות, כן, היא אומרת אני רוצה לרדת ללובי, בלובי אם יקרה משהו כולם יגידו לנו ואנחנו נדע מה קורה, בחדר אני מרגישה לא מוגנת. אני שמה את עצמי בצד.
כן.
אז באמת מה שאפשר לקבל פה זה מוצרי פארם, מוצרי תינוקות, מזון לתינוקות, ביגוד, דיאודורנטים, שמפויים, גם היגיינה נשית בבודדים. כולם
מתנדבים?
כולם מתנדבים. אני מצטמררת להגיד לך את זה.
זה ממש כוח.
האזרחים פה.
את יודעת, זה הכוח שלך.
וואו.
אז מה עושים פה?
אנחנו פה קיבלנו בעצם עשרות אלפי פניות במוקד הזה, היו פה 15 מוקדניות בכל רגע נתון, מקבלים מארחים ומתארחים, כל בקשות הסיוע, תרופות, טואלטיקה, אנחנו מפנים למרכזים הלוגיסטיים, מארגנים חלוקת מזון.
מחכים לכולם.
לבתי המלון.
אז כמה מנות אתם מכינים פה?
3,000 ביום, בשבת
3,000 מנות ביום, ואת עושה המון.
כולנו עושים המון, כולנו באמת, כולנו פה, כל מי שנמצא פה.
Well, on the topic of Eilat Needs You, the Ramaz and the KJ communities and the leadership have taken on a very important and very critical project, very creative, very imaginative, and very special. Which is there are 15,000 displaced children in Eilat right now, and the communities have taken it on themselves to make sure that every single one of those 15,000 children receives a gift for Hanukkah, which is, it's difficult to know what time frame we're in, but it's actually coming up in a few weeks. And we urge you to support that project because it's a very specific goal for a very specific person, very specific purpose. And you know, who knows, it may be the only present, the only gift, the only outside recognition that these students get, these young children of all ages get. So please, you can see 2 different ways to pay, and it's going to come through your email repeatedly. It's going to be in all our publications. Please help us meet this goal of being able to provide gifts to 15,000 students. Not students, 15,000 children of all ages. As we conclude tonight's webinar, we're going to be joined by Dr. Nancy Block, who is in charge of Chesed initiatives at the Ramaz Upper School. And it's amazing how in 3 weeks we've gone from Dr. Block, who has the most incredible relationship with the students and engages their creativity, being kind of well, there's school and then there's kind of chesed, and we find space and time, and our students are amazing chesed in their DNA, to what we now have, which is there's chesed, and then we try and fit some school in and around it, and it's kind of like large numbers of people are working for Dr. Block, mostly because she just inspires them. And so we'd like to invite her to join us and to lead us in a perek of Tehillim as we reconnect very directly with our tefillot and our hopes for the people, for our families, for the people you saw and met tonight through Rabbi Steinmetz and Rabbi Lookstein, who are currently in Israel.
Shir HaMa'alot Mima'amakim Karaticha Adonai. Adonai Shim'a v'koli Tihiyena Oznecha Kashuvot L'kol Tachanunai. Im Avonot Tishmar Yah Adonai Mi Ya'amod. Ki Imcha Haslicha Lema'an Tivarei. Kiviti Adonai Kivta Nafshi V'lidvaro Hochalti. Nafshi L'Adonai Mishomerim Laboker Shomerim Laboker. Yachel Yisrael El Adonai, Ki Im Adonai HaChesed, V'harbe Imo Fedut, V'hu Yifdet Yisrael Mikol Avonotav.
Okay. Next up is the Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. Hu yivarech et chayalei tzva hagana liYisrael. Omdim al mishmar artzenu v'arei Eloheinu. Migvul ha'levanon v'ad midbar Mitzrayim. Umin hayam hagadol ad lavo ha'arava. V'ayabasha ba'avir uvayam. Yitain Adonai et ayavenu hakamim aleinu nigafim lifnehem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmar v'yatzil et chayalenu mikol tzara v'tzuka u'mikol nega u'machala v'yishlach bracha v'hatzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yedehem. Yadber sonenu tachtehem v'yatrein b'cheter Yeshua v'ateret nitzachon v'koyam behem ha'katuv ki Adonai Elohechem ha'holech imachem lilachem lachem imayvechem loshia etchem v'nomar Amen.
So I thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us this evening, and perhaps the last two sentences, the last few words of the Mishaberach Psalm maybe sum up everything that we've heard this evening. It's we need to be there. We need to be with them. We need to support them. We need to stand by them. We need to see them and take them safely into battle, and please God, safely to return from battle. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Leah, for organizing another great Zoom event, and for Kenny and the team. And we wish you a Shabbat Shalom.